Assalamu alaikum, brother Asad.
Walaikum
How you
assalam wa
doing?
rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
You just came off a really long day, long flight, long event, back to back. How are you feeling right now?
Alhamdulillah. You know what? I'm feeling really good. It was a long day, and but what makes that long day very fruitful is what the day encompassed. And alhamdulillah, I was able to meet educators from different parts of this part of Canada, and that's always a good feeling. So feeling good right now.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
I just want to say thank you for inviting us, having me, myself, my mom.
yeah.
I know you invited us as an alumni of vice principal at the Foundation for Inspiring Hopefulness, and then we're locals here. So, like, I was just saying, if you drew a Venn diagram, your interests and our interests line up so well.
Yeah.
So, how did you go about determining what's like the interest for ISAC? What's your hope? What's your goals?
You know, it's primarily the hope is that ISAC is a vehicle to help Islamic schools reach what they want to reach, right?
Yeah.
And so understanding the vision of Islamic schools, because oftentimes when you think of the big picture, when you think of vision and mission statements and values that schools hold, oftentimes they're written down, but there's no deeper thought in how to make these things come to fruition. And ISAC kind of formulated itself in response to knowing there's a need for collaboration of schools, right? So really collaboration and networking is the essence of what we want to do and let things grow from there.
Alhamdulillah, I really felt it today. I got to see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces, and your program was actually really well structured. Where we had a lot of like deep information sessions and then some relaxing interactions. How did you go about choosing a particular structure for today's program? And would you consider like your future like professional development sessions to be something along these lines?
You know, I think this conference is the third in-person conference that we've done so far. So we are relatively new. We call ourselves in infancy, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, where we kind of stand on the shoulders of giants in a sense that there's a lot of different associations across the world that we collaborate with and we work with. I mean, ISLA and CISNA in the US are probably the most closest.
Yeah.
And so our first conference we ever did was actually in Ontario, and we did a very similar theme, building God-centered schools.
Yeah.
And that theme came about by surveying the schools, right? Trying to understand what is the need in our Islamic schools, right? And so this process was a little bit of a mix in which we said, hey, here's a theme and topic areas that work so well in our first conference in Ontario. Why not bring it to Western Canada? So instead of surveying the schools here, what we did is we took a focus group here, right? And we asked them, what do you think of this theme? Now, can you advise some topics under this theme?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, collaboration is essentially the way we like to inform how we do things. And so that's how this came about. Now, in addition to God-centered schools, the other theme that came about was well-being, right? Mental health, well-being, especially in the teaching profession, right? Be it leaders, be it teachers, be it EAs. There's a concept, or there's the feel of burnout oftentimes in school, the school year. So that was also coupled with the theme of God-centeredness, which I think went quite well together.
I thought it was quite well received. A lot of people here, that was their first time. They felt like for me, their impressions were really positive.
Yeah.
So inshallah, I want to get into some specifics with you, asking you from the perspective of the Foundation for Inspiring Hopefulness,
Right.
a few particular questions, right? So, in light of your conference theme, which you so eloquently summarized for us there, the God-centered schools and cultivating well-being, how do you believe Islamic schools can become more than just educational institutions and evolve into sources of hope for the entire ummah, beyond just the classroom?
It's a good question. And I think if we had a very precise answer for that, our journey would be, we would have a head start in our journey, right? But what I will say, I think we're exploring the how. I think what is more clear to us is the what. And what I mean by that is, where are Islamic schools now and what do they need to work on? And after serving in Islamic schools for over 20 years myself, and meeting all the great colleagues that I've met, and even talking to current principals, teachers, and stuff like that, the consensus becomes we need to get out of the mentality of imitating the public system, right? For the longest time, Islamic schools have been in place largely to shelter the kids from what's out there, the evil out there, the fitna out there. And so let's just imitate the public system and sprinkle some Islam. And I think that that's actually the wrong formula. I think what we need to do here, with the theme given today as well, is create our own quote unquote identity when it comes to the Islamic schooling or Islamic education space, and really, really recognize that we have a perfect deen. And when we're educating our children, we need to educate it with that recognition of perfection, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being the absolute perfection. And this is why God-centeredness in how we teach and learn is part of that formula. Yeah.
MashaAllah. That was really well said. As a matter of fact, it kind of reminds me, or it's kind of reminiscent to me of Luqman's advice, where he speaks to the dichotomy of enjoining in good and forbidding in evil, where it's not enough to just say, oh, let's stay away from what is not for us, but you also have to build value and create a system that is good for you as well.
Right, absolutely.
So, mashallah, I think you guys are taking a really strong lead in that direction.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Moving on to our second question. What are some key takeaways from today's conference you believe can strengthen Islamic school communities in areas such as Islamic identity and well-being? Particularly with the identity part I want to focus on.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good question. And I think speaking to some of the participants, a couple of things that they've said is that we feel we have some ingredients, right? This conference provided some ingredients for a long-lasting inspiration. And what they're referring to is the integration of Islam into the curriculum, right? So I feel there were some takeaway items for teachers, for school leaders, with the 5D thinking model that was presented in this conference, with the networking sessions that allowed the different focus groups and stakeholders to articulate their experiences with facilitated sessions, creating goals, understanding where they're at, where they're going. So I feel like these are the tidbits that this conference had to offer. Now, in addition to that, what I'll tell you is that today, November 10th was the conference, but yesterday, November 9th, was a pre-conference retreat. And that was more focused on the element of integration. The 5D model was unpacked a little bit more. And so what I noticed is there's about 30 participants in the retreat and a little bit over 120 in the conference. And those 30 people that went to the retreat and then came here, it gave actually more feedback of takeaways, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a road ahead of us to take research and to understand the discourses in research and understand how that would meet practice, right? Yeah.
That's really good. Actually, like again, something that really comes to my mind is your structure, your system structure, because you had the retreat and then this actual conference there. Alhamdulillah, not too long ago, maybe I think 8 days ago, we had our inaugural conference of Islamic Civilization Fair, where we structured it in such a way that students presented on their topics in an informal like in an informal manner at the beginning of the day, where people just walked around, got to know each other, read the room, like feel the vibes.
Right.
And then when the formal sessions came, because everyone had that baseline interaction, that familiarity.
Yeah. Yeah.
The engagement was really strong. The feedback was really positive. So I'd actually encourage you to keep up that formal informal balance, because we want people to feel welcome, but we also want to use it as an opportunity as organizers to gauge what's happening. How can I recalibrate myself to get the most out of the situation?
Right.
And then you set that in your formal structure so you maximize on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. And our last question. From ISAC, is there a vision for Islamic schools to globally collaborate and support one another, addressing unique challenges of faith-based education across the world?
I think that ought to be the vision. I think we don't have a choice. The same way we feel that schools don't have a choice. They should not be working in silos. There's an obligation to bring the good that they're doing to other schools and to seek out the challenges or seek out the solution to their challenges from other schools. It's the same thing. ISAC has an obligation to provide the good that we're providing to other parts of the world and seek out, how to accomplish our challenges from other parts of the world. And I'll give you a very simple example that
Yeah.
ISAC is a member of the Global Association of Islamic Schools, right? The GAIS. And they very recently had a conference in Malaysia that I went to. Sheikh Abdullah Idris from Canada, he went to. A few other people from Canada were there, as well as some of the speakers we had today. Brother Habib Qadri was there in Malaysia. Dr. Najati was there. Sister Uzma was there. And I'll tell you the experience, right? To me, it was like, wow, here we are gathering, but it's not just a family gathering, like a relative gathering, right? Or it's not just a gathering of, a few educators that people know. It's a gathering of a global community doing the work of Islamic schooling in their own countries, right? From Canada to US to Netherlands to Malaysia to Pakistan and the list just keeps going on and on and on. And the outcome of that, right, was the networking is huge, but the outcome of that, check this out, this is really interesting, is that you had the right minds in the right place at the same time, talking about integration, talking about what's your ideal graduate look like, right? And you start learning about, things that other parts of the world are doing. And so within this conference came a subcommittee, and this just evolved, of experts in the area of building programs, like project managers and program managers and strategic thinkers and think tanks, to create something they call a WIB, which is the World Islamic Baccalaureate. You know the IB, the International Baccalaureate?
Like IBAP.
That's right, right? So an IB with the Islamic worldview. And so it started as an idea at the beginning of the retreat, and now at the beginning of the conference, now there's actually a retreat being held in Medinat al-Munawwara from people who are leading this initiative, right? Something I intend to go, something I intend to represent ISAC. And so that's just one example of what a global community can do for you, right?
Inshallah, something like that spins out from today.
Inshallah.
A lot of the offshoots are where the secret sauce happens,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Well, before we wrap up, we are the Foundation for Inspiring Hopefulness. So I have to ask you, today, from what you witnessed, do you feel inspired and hopeful?
I do, absolutely. Absolutely, I do. And I think that the coming together and people, taking the time, this is a long weekend in Alberta, right? And people taking the time in their long weekend to share space, to come together and share space and share experiences. This is inspiring, and it brings hope for sure.
Jazakallah
Yeah.
khair.
Wayakum.
Thank you for talking with us. Inshallah, we'll have below the information for ISAC and yourself.
Inshallah.
So please do give them a follow, support them in whatever capacity you may be able, and of course benefit from them. And thank you for watching.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.